Hello everyone, this is an explanation video of that Noah's Ark video I made for record for myself, talking to AI who has a vast amount of knowledge. But I was having a debate with people who, on Noah's Ark, it was that Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate on Noah's Ark, and Bill Nye mentioned the Wyoming would twist and bend in rough waters and eventually broke, but I commented saying that he was being dishonest and wondering why he didn't mention the 14 years that the Wyoming sailed before it sank. You know, because Noah's Ark would only have to be on the water for a little over a year, if that. So, a lot of people said to me that God's plan was stupid because he should have had Noah build a circular ark. And then I said, well, a circular ark is more prone to capsizing. And they don't believe me, and that's fine. I mean, but maybe they'll see this video. But anyways, there was actually this vessel right here, the Russian monitor Norgorod, which was a circular vessel, and it's right here. That's a little model of it. They destroyed it. They dismantled it. But this boat is right here, and there you can see other samples right down here. So they built it, and you know, according their expectations when they built it said it would be so stable on the water. I mean, that's what it was built for, and also a defense, and it had weapons contained in it. But the freeboard, which is the deck to the surface of the water, was only 18 inches, so it's low. And you can see the propellers are right here. But there was reports that in anything but calm waves or calm water, that it would pitch, it would spin uncontrollably, and it would rock, causing people inside to be very ill. It was just uncontrollable, and they even had control. Like, Noah's Ark wasn't built with any controls. You know, no rudders, no steering, no sails, no oars. But this had controls, but it still couldn't control itself very well. So this is on the Wikipedia page, talking about the vessel. So the freeboard was only 18 inches, right here in the highlighting. And then in some conditions, the ship could pitch enough to lift her propellers out of the water. So there's her propellers, so they were lifted up, they were tilted up, and her water, so that means her front side was down, you know, below the surface, and her tail, or her propellers were up. So if you could think of so this vessel would not withstand the flood of Noah's time. It would just be devastated by the waves. And I talked to Lumen, or Meta AI, because it has this assortment of all this vast information about ships and counterbalances and mass and center weights and words that I don't even know how to pronounce. But they're in that video that I'm just scrolling through, that from having that interaction with a source of information that won't be mocking me, but straight to the facts. And that's why I wanted to keep record of that. But here is the Beaufort wind scale. So in a storm force of 8, and that's why I highlighted it here, which is the wind would have been 34 to 40 knots, and the moderate high waves would be 18 to 25 feet, which isn't that high. You know, that's like twigs breaking off trees in a thunderstorm. Wind gusts, that's on land, and then this is on the water. As an example, down here, a ship in a Force 12 hurricane force storm at sea. So those in a Force 12 would be down here, 64 plus knots wind, hurricane, air filled with foam, waves over 45 feet. So waves 20 feet less cause the Russian Norgorod to be uncontrollable and rock and have her propellers out. So and this is just a Google search off the navalhistoria.com that showed up. I highlighted it. Contrary to the expectations of when it was built, the Novgorod's round shape made her prone to instability in rough waters. So, a round vessel would not be good in a stormy weather or rough waters, like what would probably happen in Noah's time. And according to Lumen or Meta AI, the better choice would actually be a long and skinny vessel. Even though the Ark was in appropriate sizes to what modern day ships are built. It was in between the 1-to-7 ratio. It's a 1.67 ratio. The Ark, according to the best measurements that you can go from cubits to feet. Here's another report on the vessel. The circular The circular form, so extremely favorable, is this kind of handiness that the Norgard can easily be revolved at her center at a speed which quickly makes one giddy. And then you can read the rest. Jumping down, then the current caught them, and they were carried out to sea, whirled helplessly round and round, every soul on board helplessly incapacitated by vertigo. So, you gotta remember, Noah's Ark didn't have any steering, so this would be happening all the time. It would be spinning helplessly, out of control. You ever been on a school playground merry-go-round and feel the G-force and being pulled, like you're being pulled off the merry-go-round, or even like an amusement park ride where you're standing and it pushes you against the wall because it's spinning so fast? Imagine that. Like, there isn't enough control. Even Noah's Ark, long and skinny, would have more control. It would not be at the whim of the wind and waves. It would not spin uncontrollably as a circular vessel would. Another thing is that have you ever been on the ocean on an inner tube? How many times have you flipped over? Because the wind, after reaching the peak of the wave, has the wind caught you and tipped you over. So if you can think of it this way, so my hand is the inner tube, and I only have one hand, so the wave is under me right here. So you're on an inner tube, and your peak of your inner tube, you reach the peaks of the wave, the wind catches it, and since your back end is also round, as the same as the front end, you don't have as much stopping force hitting the water that's still down here on the below the wave. So the top end pushes you, and it keeps catching more air and more air and more air, and then you end up tipping over because the wind catches you. Now a long vessel has this whole length behind it, so if the wind catches it at the peak, the other side of the wave, if the wind starts hitting the peak of the vessel, it has another 100 or more feet behind it that's keeping it way down in the wave, so it can break over it and come back down. So I don't know why they didn't realize this when they built it. The person in the comments said 19th century physics were better than the people who wrote about Noah. But they weren't. When they built this vessel, they were wrong. It was terrible. Even in moderate waves. 25, 18-foot waves. Terrible. So, that's what this was about. It was just a poor design. And Noah's Ark was only meant to float. The wind resistance, it would prevent it from... It would still turn with the wind and the waves, but it would not spin as much or turn as much, and with the waves like this boat did. This is a prime example of that. So this boat would have too much lift and not enough equal. balancing weight in the back, or whichever way it's facing, and getting pushed on with lift. Like I said with the wave thing. Maybe I'll do a sketch of it, or not a sketch, but a slideshow where you, almost like a flip book, but online. But this might be just easy enough to look up for yourself and you to work through. The other thing is the building materials. So this is made with metal and stuff, but what if it was just made with wood? I mean, if Noah lived in 2300 BC, he would have had access to bronze. But let's say he was just, using wood, wood pins into wood, like tying wood in with wood pins, and he would have access. And Noah had access because if he was around that time, even in Mesopotamia, they were using hide glue. And in Egypt, in the Pharaoh's tombs, there is evidence of glued together or laminate beams. Not with the same glue we use today, but the strength was so strong that and durable, it's withstood all this time. So they found glued together pieces of lumber, laminate wood, in tombs and in building structures, and recorded in Mesopotamia text for buildings and bridges and structures, which would be buildings. So let's say Noah had access to not only tree pitch or tree resin, which comes from tree bark or tree sap that you can make a glue out of, but also animal hide glue, which comes from the hides of animals, and it's more water resistant, so that'd probably be a better choice to use. I'm hoping you can hear me. It's kind of windy out, but it feels great. So I added music to that because, and I scrolled about every 5 to 3 seconds, starting at the 55-second mark on that video. That's a record for our conversation, just because I want to be able to go back to it and see what Lumen said in case it gets deleted off of Facebook. But I put music on it so it'd be more interesting to read if you were to follow along, and see what the more details of what was talked about and facts on the matter. But animal glue, okay, so some of you may not know this. I didn't know this until I became a carpenter, and went to school for it. Laminate beams that are the same size as a solid wood beam, a laminate beam would be stronger. So if it was a 12 by 12, so 12 inch wide by and have a 12 inch width, and then however feet long would be, so, okay, let me just say this, a 12 by 12 by 12 beam would be, now I'm getting tongue-tied, a 12 by 12 by 12 laminate beam would be stronger than a 12 by 12 by 12 solid wood beam. So it is likely that Noah used glue to strengthen wooden beams, and as we talked in the thing with Lumen, is that would substantially have more resistance from impact from waves, massive waves such as from Noah's flood. There would still be issues, but there are ways to limit that down, such as using glue and tree resin and multi-layered, so you have boards going across the hull, like the length of the hull of the boat, and then you have them going horizontally, and then you have them going vertically. So you add an extra layer of water protection. So if there is twisting and bending, the glue and also the extra layer of boards would prevent it from leaking. And then also you put the tree resin or the wood glue on the outside to act as a pitch, as a water sealant. And then also the glue on the wood beams itself would also act as not only a strengthener, but also water resistant for the beams and boards themselves. And not only that, but if Noah were to attach wood beams and build his ark with pins, the pins don't have to be little tiny dowels. They could be 6 by 6, so 6 inch, or 4 by 4s, or 6 by 6 inch, or however thick laminate together pins, like the pins are actually laminated together, and you put that pin into a laminate beam, just adding so much more strength and so much more force. Because if you use a little pin in a beam, it has more prone to snapping. So if you use a bigger pin in a beam, it's less prone to the pools of the water and snapping off. And the laminate glue would prevent it from splitting. The wood, with that pressure, wood would want to split. But with the laminate glue, because it makes it stronger, it would be less prone to splitting in rough waves, being impacted all the time. Not to say that Noah's Ark was being impacted the whole time. Or if there's debris floating in the water from trees and land and animals that are impacting the water, having beams and the hull of the ship built this way would drastically reduce or be resistant to that type of impact. Now, according to Lumen, I know this video is getting a little long, I'm sorry about that, but you don't need to watch it. According to Lumen, the Noah's Ark could use 22 by 22 inch beams and still be able to carry the cargo of what scholars figure would be in it. I think it's 16,000 species, so 16,000 animals, or 16,000 animals. And with whatever weight was calculated into that. So the boat, Noah's Ark, would still be able to use that type of material, that heavy material, and still float and be durable with the waves and the wind, and be able to break through the waves without spinning as the Russian vessel would. Alright, so I just wanted to go over that. Also, the dimensions I gave Lumen were based on what was given to me, so let me go there. This is what a person said. He said, so a 72-foot craft will flip over long, after that, let me see here. Here it is, right here. A circular craft, this is the guy who's saying a circular craft would be better. A circular craft of the same volume would be 200 feet in diameter. So that's the dimension I went with. He didn't give me a height of the vessel, so I couldn't really go off of that. But what Lumen did was go with a comparable height, as he can figure, or I say he because Lumen sounds like a guy's name, but Lumen went with comparable dimensions for the circle vessel and the Ark. So to answer the question, Noah's Ark would be better, and Lumen will actually pick Noah's Ark over the circular Ark. And I just find that amazing. I mean, I already figured it would be true. I mean, God's all knowledgeable. But the fact that people denied it and then give me sources of this vessel, and then the vessel itself, records of the vessel actually say the opposite, and it actually says the same thing. The builders of that time for the war expected it to do really well because of its circular shape, but it did absolutely horrible. So yeah, so I find that exciting. But so if anyone says the circular vessel is better, just show them, the facts, and have them go on a circular boat. They make circular fishing boats, but they usually have keels, which to help them stabilize them. But you wouldn't want to ride those circular boats in rough waves. They're mainly meant for ponds or what do you call them, bays, where it's the ocean, but there's no waves. I think that's a bay or a lagoon, but you wouldn't want to take them out to sea because they'll tip. So, but, yep, alrighty, toodles.